This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill.
I'm so much more comfortable collecting real estate than I am collecting other stuff.
This is the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Purse, here with your co-host, Bill Hamill. This morning we interviewed Travis Gibson. We touched on going from single families to multifamilies, the 2008 recession, also investing in crypto and stocks. Bill, what'd you
Travis
think?
is awesome. Ever since I joined that mentorship group over a year ago, I met Travis shortly after. Actually, it took me a few months to actually meet him, but I had witnessed what he was doing and I was excited to talk to him, get to know him better because Travis brings so much to the table, as everyone's going to hear.
Yeah, he was so good. At one point, I asked him his secrets to raising capital, almost jokingly, asking for a secret. And he gave 3 points. And the third one was definitely something that I hadn't thought of and will be using in the
No,
future.
absolutely.
And it's a lot of good information
Valuable
today.
stuff.
Travis Gibson, thank you for being on the Collecting Real Estate Podcast. Bill has mentioned you probably 10, 15 times over the last year since I started working with him, saying how great you are at everything you do, getting up with the miracle morning. I've heard that you're a stock expert, you're a real estate guru. Tell us more about yourself. How did you get into the real estate market?
Sure. I'll give you the quick 5 minute. Well, I'll try to make it 2 minute synopsis. Let's put it that way. Um, my parents have been single family landlords for my entire life, so that's how I got introduced to real estate. Um, I used to go with my old man and watch him knock on people's doors and collect their rent, and I would see the joy on his face when they handed over that rent and we went to the next unit. So that was my initial exposure to real estate. My mother is also a broker, although my folks are retired. Well, my mother won't retire, but my old man has been retired for a while. He invests passively in deals now, but um, they sold off most of their single family holdings. So then, as an adult, I started acquiring single family homes in my early 20s. Throughout my career, built up quite a portfolio up until 2008. For those of us gray haired fellas who remember what 2008 looked and felt like, took a significant step back during that period. But I call 2008 going to college because I learned so much, not only about myself, but also about real estate and about markets. So from 2008 through 2019, started rebuilding my single family portfolio, got up to 10 single family units out here in Sacramento, California, and was tired of dealing with landlord, with tenants and toilets and trouble and everything that comes with single family. I had a friend who had started investing as an LP in multifamily deals and was telling me all of the benefits and the fact that he didn't have to deal with tenants. And eventually he broke through. And I invested as an LP in a deal and saw like I could have cash flow, I could have tax benefits, and none of the trouble of managing tenants. At that point, a light bulb went off, and I in late 2019, I jumped in. I joined Jake and Gino, their educational wheelbarrow profits program, and was off to the races from there. I ended up partnering with a few guys from Apple. We did our first syndication in early 2020. This was a $7 million mixed use deal. And then from there, we went on to do four other syndication deals, all in Kansas City. Love that MSA to this day, still really hot. A lot of people have discovered it. So last year, another JV, as well as a 227 units. So altogether now, I'm an LP in over 3,000 units and a GP in over 700 units. So I don't know if that was 5 minutes, but that's the Cliff Notes version.
Lots to unpack there. Appreciate you having you on
Yep.
this. I've been looking forward to this, as Stephen mentioned. Going back to your father knocking on doors, I can see. I've never seen your dad, but I can picture someone who looks like you smiling as someone hands them a check, cash. Not sure what that
Yeah.
looks like, but
Oh, always cash.
always
Love
cash.
cash.
We won't go there today. But the only
Yeah.
thing I noted, as you mentioned, the pleasure when he receives that cash, the pain and pleasure. I mention this to Stephen every now and then. You learn so much from your previous pain, and you also learn so much from your pleasure. Tell me a little bit about that in the real estate game, from your dad collecting that cash and being so happy, and then some of that pain, because I'm sure a lot of the times you knock on the door, they don't answer, or they answer and say no cash today.
Yes. On the pleasure side of it, what what I was able to witness with my parents was how you are able to generate wealth, not only cash flow, but wealth. Where we came from, we originally came from Saginaw, Michigan, which is a tiny GM. It's a GM4 town right outside of Detroit. So in the late 70s, the Japanese came in and pretty much decimated the U.S. automakers. So we were forced, because the plants were laying off, to move out to California. So from there, like I said, my folks started really working to kind of stabilize, and then to really try to create something for the family. So over time, I saw the benefits of real estate, just how it affected our family collectively. So now on the drawback side, like I've seen things like, particularly out here in California, where the cannabis law started changing and folks started like converting houses into grow houses. So I've experienced what that looks like as well, where tenants will go in, rip out the ceilings, rip out the electrical, do all kinds of water damage to the property, and then you're in a situation where, you know, there's significant damage to the property, and you don't have any recourse, and you basically have to kind of eat those costs, and as well as tenants that don't pay, play games. But the one thing I will say, Bill, is my old man taught me early on, it's all business. It's not personal with any of these tenants, but the minute you start acting like this is personal, then your tenants will start treating you like friends as opposed to a business transaction.
I love that message of it's business. It's very important to keep in
It's
mind
business.
every day. I've never heard of tenants converting their rentals to grow houses. I feel like I'm listening to 2 podcasts a day, and I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah,
Sounds like
out
that's a
here,
real thing going on.
yeah, out here in California, there was a period of time, particularly around 2008, for whatever reason, um, the cannabis laws out in California were changing around that time as well. The penalties were reduced quite a bit, so it kind of incentivized folks to take these types of chances, and was, I guess, it was pretty lucrative. But
Yeah,
like I said,
first time
the
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 laws are changing,
damage, right? Yeah,
they're taking
the
their
damage
chance.
is.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get into all the successes and wins that you've had, but sticking to that 2008 period that we're talking about right now, can you tell us more about how that recession hit you? You said you were successfully building up a portfolio of smaller, I think, single families, and then that hit, and you got your learning, your college period. Tell us more about that.
Okay. I had gotten to a point where I was financially independent, like in 2007. We had, because at least out here in California, we were seeing, in this particular market, we were seeing 8, 9, 10% appreciation in a month. So you could secure a property I mean, you could secure the contract on a single family and turn around and flip it for 10% within the same week. Or and because and because these are the days of stated income, you could state your income to be whatever you felt like it should be, and you could secure debt based on that income. So while I tried to stay within the bounds of the law, certainly, it was very easy to get money relatively cheap. And because of that, like I said, my portfolio expanded out to the point where, I was doing, 8, 9, 10 deals in a month, either contract flips directly or, actually trying to close these deals and then flip them the next month. So in 2008, though, what happened was, and on top of that, let me say this. I had bought a new house. I was putting a pool in, Mercedes. I was about to quit I was about to get free, Bill. And and right around that time, like I said, when Bear Stearns went under, like all, within 3 months, all of that just started collapsing. Like you couldn't, um, access to capital dried up. The deals I was currently in were all going belly up because I was incentivized. I really needed to exit those deals in order to, the market wasn't such that you could actually cash flow these deals. Like you needed that growth in order to sustain yourself. So yeah, I went from, at that point I think I had like 20 single families down to 4. And those, ironically, those 4 were the 4 that I had all bought, the right way. They all cash flowed. The debt on them was long term. It was good debt. Interest rates were good, so I was able to hold on to those. But the rest of them, I either had to short sell or basically, sign the deed back over to the bank. So yeah, that was a horrible time.
Yeah,
Horrible.
2008 was very interesting. We could almost see it just from the news where things just happened, like Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, and it seemed like it was days or maybe just weeks where everyone's like, okay, it's like happening right now. And within a month or less, the dominoes just started to drop. And it was just bad immediately. And I was concerned. That was when I started saying, okay, I need to protect what I built. And then really
Hmm.
saw firsthand places like California, Vegas, Florida, were the markets that were super hot. But when this type of market cycle shifts, boy, they go cold real quick. And those are the areas that are at most risk. Where in our area, in the capital region of New York, I was thinking we were going to deal with the same type of thing, but we're the type of market that doesn't heat up nearly as much. We kind of get to the warm stage, and then when the recession hits, it doesn't freeze. It just cools down a bit. And fortunately, that's one of the aspects of the capital region of New York that is good, because we feel a little bit insulated on those market shifts. With that experience that you had in 2008, is that in your calculus, so to speak, as far as where you're buying now? I know you mentioned KC. I know you have a big deal in Texas. Does in this part of the market cycle, how much of your location criteria comes into play?
It definitely comes into play. Um, but for me, the more important factor, and I think about um, Jake's saying, if it doesn't cash flow, let the grass grow.
Mm.
When I look at the deals that worked out for me, it was those deals, the deals where I had good debt, and the deals um, where I actually had really good cash flow that survived. So in terms of markets, you're aware there's a shifting demographic in this country, away from the coast into middle America. So when you factor in those two things, these are markets that have pretty significant upside, but also have that population and employment growth. Those are the things that I'm really looking for in markets. So I mean, that's why I like KC. It's why I like Nashville. It's why I like Texas, generally speaking, um, because they all, these markets, and there's other markets as well, but these markets really have those three components.
Yeah, we're seeing huge growth, and I don't think the music's going to stop anytime soon in those areas. Even we do see sometimes 10% month over month growth in some of the hot markets. I do think those middle America markets are here to stay. You mentioned being a GP on, I forgot how many units, but it was an impressive number. Can you go deeper into a recent purchase? I'd love to hear more about one of those properties.
Absolutely. Yeah, we currently are closing out a deal, a 227 unit deal, in Pasadena, Texas. It's a suburb of Houston, and this is workforce housing. And workforce housing, it's a Class C deal. That's kind uh, of the sweet spot, at least for my investing criteria, because typically what happens is in a lot of these markets, these markets where there's significant growth, upside growth, is you're able to get in, and you're able to value add these deals and increase rents and drive NOI. So in this particular deal that we're in, what I really liked about it, because I passed on quite a few deals in 2021, just because I didn't like the narrative, or the story seemed the performance seemed a little stretched. But with this deal, it was two assets, and one of them had already been renovated and the rents had already been increased. And these two assets are a mile and a half away. So when I see something like that, I'm like, okay. And they were same vintage. The two assets were very, very similar. So same vintage, same demographics. One asset has already proven the narrative from the seller. To me, the market has spoken, right? It's just a matter of getting in and executing the business plan. So yeah, that's what I really liked about that deal. Now I know a lot of people are looking for the sexy, Class A deals, and that's cool. I mean, people need those too, but people also need good, clean, affordable housing. I don't think there'll ever not be a need for that. So, that's what I really liked about that deal in in Houston.
No, I love that. There's such a demand right now for affordable housing. We all know that, and that's one of the reasons that I stay so bullish on the market. Even in this part of the market cycle, there is a supply issue on apartments, specifically affordable housing. And then you look at, okay, we're going into affordable housing, seeing some value add possibilities, and then raising rents on that affordable housing. But hey,
Right.
welcome to inflation, welcome to the marketplace. I like how that seller and any prospective buyers are able to look at those two assets and see that he created a proof of concept on the one property.
Hmm.
And that's all I need to see a lot of the times.
Right.
Understanding that it doesn't have to be the same seller, but down the road, you see an operator had just done a value add, increased the rents, and it just lays it out on a silver platter when we're doing something 3 or 4 blocks away. Do you know why the seller was selling before he created that proof of concept on that second building? Uh-oh.
Can you hear us, Travis?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah. The reason the seller was selling, there was actually two reasons. The first reason is the seller bought both those assets and bought them all cash, which I had. This is the first time I'd ever seen that. So when I was reviewing the financials and doing my underwriting, I'm like, wow, this is really strange. Where's the debt? So I dug a little deeper, and I could see the seller was actually taking pretty significant draws every month, and the expenses were like 90% of the total revenue. So I'm like, wow, how's this deal working? So reached out to the talk to the other GPs, and then talk to the seller. Yeah, so basically they were using this deal as just a slush fund for all intents and purposes, and the seller now wanted to actually do a bigger deal outside of Dallas of like a 550 unit, and needed the capital from this deal to do that deal. And Bill, it everything is timing in multifamily, right? You have you could have significant capital spread out across multiple deals, but there'll always come a point when you need more capital, and this is the situation that seller was in.
When you first said he bought it all cash, my first question was going to be, did you discuss seller financing? But that you answered that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Can we go a little deeper on what the debt structure looks like for this, and how you've originally found the deal? Just a little more details.
Oh, sure. One of my partners actually found it, and that's why I can't stress enough for folks that are just getting started. Network. This is a guy that I had been speaking with. We had been speaking for about a year and a half. Just on and off. On Zoom calls, and he didn't have a whole lot of deal flow, and he made some connections in the local Houston market. And then now the next thing you know, I mean, he's got like incredible deal flow. He has partnered with some folks that are doing, DTS, direct to seller, boots on the ground connections with sellers in that Houston market, now in San Antonio as well. So, and particularly in this market, a lot of the broker deals that I've seen, I don't want to say a lot, but quite a few in 2021 anyway, were deals where they just didn't meet my criteria. So yeah, I see why a lot of folks have transitioned into this direct to seller model.
No, absolutely, because nothing's on the market anymore. Anything that does come on the market, it ends up being a feeding frenzy, and price gets jacked way up, and we don't like to be in that situation. Those highest and bests are never comfortable. So the direct to seller, we're doing some of that. We also, fortunately, it's nice when you do have some brokers that may bring you deals, and you're the only person on the deal or one of a few, because that's so much more comfortable. I know you mentioned that networking. Yeah. Boy, did I realize that over the last 2 years, joining that same mentorship group that you did. I joined that mentorship group because I was going from accumulating all those small properties into a big portfolio, deciding to scale. And I said, I need the education to learn about the scaling business so I can do this properly at this point in my career, because I don't have time to make mistakes. And the education's fine. At this point, doing real estate so long, you're able to soak that in a short period of time. But then realizing, after having some success getting into some deals, the reason that I did 2 of my 4 deals in 2021 was because of that network. I was able to get into 2 deals in Florida because of the boots on the ground, and they found the deals. They offered that as far as their value, along with some other things, but they brought me in because of experience and some of the things that I brought to the table. And boy, do you realize how, a team is created based on, one of these big deals. Where is your most comfortable area? I know that you at this point in your career, you've been doing real estate a long time. You could probably fill all the buckets, so to speak, as far as the GP responsibilities. What do you like to focus on the most at this point?
It's a great question, Bill. At this juncture, my primary focus is investor outreach and capital raising. it's what I like to do. I love the idea of providing these alternative investments to folks that aren't even aware that that's even possible. When I started telling, my network that I'm investing in apartment buildings, everyone's like, "Wow, you're rich. Like you can buy apartment buildings." I'm like, let me explain to you how this actually works. Nobody is doing this as an individual. The teamwork is what makes the dream work. So, you know, Bill, like I love stocks. I love crypto. I think they're great assets for what they are. But I also want to present the opportunity for folks from my community to be able to scale up beyond just a single family, right? To be able to really see what's possible in the commercial real estate space and specifically in multifamily.
I would have expected you to answer with asset management, given your experience and your long career as a
Yeah.
landlord and owner operator. Can you tell us some of your Travis Gibson secrets to raising capital?
Oh, well, let's see. Secrets. No, but I can no. I can give you, I will give you one secret. And this is a secret I got from a guy who's really good at raising. But the first thing I would say is be transparent. Be 100% transparent. If you see something in the deal, let the investors know. What I try to do is I try to create, I don't want to say worst case scenario, but certainly not. Uh, I want to. I really want to under promise and over deliver. There's nothing worse than having expectations with an investor and those expectations not being met. It is painful, and depending on the investor, it could be financially costly as well. So you definitely want to make sure you're 100% transparent. And then, secondly, I would say be authentic, be yourself. Oftentimes, particularly in this space, everybody there's this constant kind of flexing, and I'm doing all of these huge deals. Look at me. But what I found is being your authentic self and presenting things as they actually are, both your experience as well as the deal, is what creates trust with people. So those two things. And here's the tip that I'll give you. And like I said, I got this from a guy who is amazing at raising. When investors reach out to you, particularly if they have very significant questions, and I learned this from this gentleman because he actually did it to me, and I ended up investing in his deal. So I know it works. What he did was, as opposed to going through my detail, I think I hit him with like 10 questions about his underwriting and all his performance. And as opposed to trying to answer each question in an email, he created a loom and talked through all of my questions and then sent me the video. And I'm like, oh, okay. This guy is serious. He has a process. He deals with investors that have very detailed questions. He's dealt with this before. And he took enough of his time to really put this video together. I now realize, though, this was actually more time efficient for him, because him writing a response to that email could have taken an hour easy. It took him 10 minutes to record this loom and send it to me. So that's the tip that I'll give to you. You're dealing with investors. It's that personal touch. Everybody wants to be special. Everybody wants to be a star. Let them be a star. Let them be special. Treat them that way.
Yeah, everybody's different. Everyone's going to have a different style, but I love that approach because you had 10 questions, you're interested in this deal. This person comes with that loom, and at that point, I'm assuming it might have been the tipping point where you're like, all right, this isn't the first loom this guy has done. This guy's a serious
Right.
player. He takes this very seriously. He put serious thought into this, and he probably knocked those questions out of the park. Had
Oh, you killed
great
him. Yeah.
objections to any of the challenges that you had to offer. The one thing I have to ask you, as far as raising, when you're talking to someone or people, and you're focusing on raising money for that real estate investment, but they know that you're a skilled crypto guy, a skilled stock guy. The reason I say this is
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going into my meeting saying real estate is the best investment vehicle and it's way better than these things for these reasons. Where if someone says to
Okay.
you, Travis, I know you got this real estate deal, but you're making me money over here on the stock market and I like the crypto and all of this. So why would I go with the real estate in relation to these other two things that you love to do as well?
That is a question that I get, and it's a great question. Let me start off by saying, first and foremost, if you take a look at, let's take a look at a cryptocurrency and a stock, and then we'll compare them with real estate, and then we'll talk about risk, generally speaking. Okay, so if you look at Bitcoin, for instance, right, over the past 10 years, the cumulative return for Bitcoin is over 20,000%. 20,000%. Okay. If you look at a stock like Tesla, the cumulative average over the course of the past 10 years, almost 600%. Okay, that's great. You look at real estate, yeah, particularly multifamily, yeah, about 9.5%. Okay, so obviously outsized returns, but now let's factor in the risk, right? The risk of each of these assets. Bitcoin has had two significant drawdowns. One of the drawdowns was 73% in 2018. In 2014, it was almost 60%. Tesla has had very, very similar drawdowns. The first one was over 50%, and the second one was almost 40%. Okay, so now we look at real estate. It's been pretty consistent the past 10 years. So I say all that to say this. It really depends on your risk profile, but I think if you are an active investor and someone who is looking to grow wealth, you have to have some percentage of your assets in asset classes that can provide asymmetrical risk, and you need some that can provide more stabilized risk. So when I get this question, I talk about myself personally. I am far more leveraged. I'm far more leaning to real estate as a core holding, but because I see the potential upside in these other asset classes, I have to, as an active investor, I have to look at what's possible there and deploy capital according to my own risk profile. That's a long answer to a very short question.
No, that's a great answer. I think you're positioning yourself well by being exposed to all the different classes. I think of maybe the crypto as the baseball player who's either going to hit a home run or strike out. That's
Yep.
your big hitter, and it's either going to be a home run or a strikeout. And then the real estate on
Hmm.
the other side is that second batter who's hitting a single every time he's up. And when
Right.
you put both in your lineup, you know you're gonna score.
Yep. It's a
I,
great analogy.
I'm impressed that you have the time to invest in all three, because I think anyone would agree that, yeah, they're all great vehicles for creating wealth if you know what you're doing. And knowing what you're doing means putting a lot of due diligence and time into these investments and really studying every move you make. I know that you're also an IT employee for Apple. How do you do all of it?
I'm not going to say it's easy. It is not. And I will, if I'm being honest, I will say this. I'm not trading as actively as I have in the past from a stock and crypto perspective. I'm really I'm investing more in those two asset classes than I've had in the past, just because I it is very difficult to do a good job for my investors in the deals that I have done. and do these other things and work a W-2 job. And Bill, I'm going to circle back. I want to talk about that if you don't mind.
Sure.
Uh, when I got my W-2 back in January, I didn't realize how much I had made. I had to pause for a second.
Golden handcuffs.
I had to pause.
Golden handcuffs.
No, I mean, like, no, but here's the thing. This was realized capital. This is capital they had actually, well, no, there was no gift. I had actually earned because I had in my mind a number, an escape number. I had that number, and I thought, okay, I have to be pretty close to it. So when I saw my W-2 and saw my quote unquote total wages, I was like, oh, okay, I have to get really busy this year if this year is going to be it, because for all intents and purposes, last year was my best year as a W-2 employee. It was also my best year in real estate. So it's coming. I just, I'm looking for the best and most effective use of my time. And I'm quickly getting to the point where it is far more efficient use, capital efficient use of my time to be all in real estate, but not quite there yet.
No, that makes sense. And you're going to know when the time is right. Fortunately, you go to bed at 10 at night and get up at 2 in the morning. So, you still have time.
So tired.
You still have time to do those things as I watch your social media videos in the dark.
So tired.
And, the roosters are crowing. How do you prepare some of those videos? Do you just say, hey, it just comes to mind. You're like, screw it. Let me do a video right now and post it on and try to do that a few times a week.
Yes and no. I fancy myself an amateur philosopher. I mean, I don't think there's a such thing as a professional philosopher. You have philosophies for life. And these are concepts that I'm constantly wrestling with. So what happens is I generally after my, my morning meditation and my, my morning practice, an idea will just come to me. Like I call it, it's like the muse, like the idea just comes. And what I try to do is I don't necessarily write it down, but I try to have a few points that I want to touch on. And then I just try to give it my authentic voice. And I realize that, for some people, it may be too touchy-feely, or they don't want to know me personally in that way, or whatever. That's fine. But I know for some people, they will understand what it is that I'm trying to convey. And ultimately, this is what I tell everyone. Stephen, Bill, you are the prize. You are the prize. I am the prize. Our authentic self is the prize. So it's the only real thing we have to give to the world, because the world has everything else. So if you really care and want to give to the world, give your authentic self. And that's what I try to do.
That's cool. Love that message, Travis. Every time I see that video, I'm like, all right, what's he got to say today? But it's always fun opening that. And that's the whole idea. It's getting that engagement, getting people to want to see what you're going to say on that video that day. This is the Collecting Real Estate podcast. So they say you have to have 3 of something to make a collection. So we've got 3 questions for you to finish this great episode. Number 1, what is your 1 to 2 year business goal or goals?
Oh, okay. I'll tell you my 1 year goal. My 1 year goal is to raise $10 million this year. That's my 1 year goal.
Fantastic.
It's
1
not
year.
That's.
What is your 1 year personal goal?
Oh, that one's actually pretty easy as well. I'd like to get back to competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, as I tell everyone. And I'd like to get back to my competition weight which is 165. So I turned 50 last year. So that that effort has been far more difficult than it has been in the past. But that is my 1 year goal, and I will absolutely do it. There's no question.
No, I love that. Being 50, I've been running, I guess you can say competitively in my age bracket. But,
Mm-hmm.
still, even in that age bracket, once you turn 50, to keep up that momentum and to keep up, that type, those types of times, is the jiu-jitsu, do you compete in age brackets, or are you still just dealing with weight classes?
You can. There's a little bit of both. You know, from a competition standpoint, I'm going to compete against folks in my own age category and weight. But when you attend class, there's everyone there. There's big guys, there's young guys, there's strong guys, there's weak guys, and just to be able to show up and to be able to train is, to me, is the gift. I mean, I know so many folks that either injuries or life changes aren't able to practice anymore. And to me, it's my second meditative practice, because you have to be 100% present. There is nothing else. So yeah, for
No, I
sure.
love that. No, I love that. I agree. I'm just grateful to be able to, tonight at around 5:30, 6 o'clock, be able to go out there and run 9 miles. There's a lot of people that wish they could, but their
Oh
knee
yeah.
or their back or their hip just won't allow that.
Yeah.
Travis, how can Steve and I or the listeners assist you, and how do we contact you?
Another great question. The best way, I'm on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, but I would say the easiest way is just to visit my website, freemanequity.com, and take a look. I have an ebook, 5 years of financial freedom out there, a financial freedom calculator. So if you're interested in figuring out what your number is, the calculator is I think it's pretty easy to use. It really just allows you to figure out what you want to invest, how long you want to invest for, and what is that number that you actually need to see to reach financial freedom. You plug the numbers in, and using multifamily real estate, it will show you how long it will take for you to get to that number. So freemanequity.com, check me out. If you want to schedule a call, feel free. And you know or hit me on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. I'm Travis Gibson there, or Freeman Equity.
It's not hard to find Travis on social media. I love that on your
No,
website. That's
not
a
hard to
that's a
find.
great free tool to engage people and ultimately be interested in what you have going on. I appreciate having you, Travis. Great episode. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir. You guys take it easy.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks for having me.